So, I have a complaint when it comes to the world we live in these days. And I've tried making several videos to express that complaint in a way that can actually, maybe spark some thought. Oh, well, here goes, folks. There was a time in our nation's history where personal responsibility was something that was expected of just about every single person alive. You weren't supposed to expect other people to take care of your problems. You're not supposed to. You're supposed to go out there and take care of them yourself. You make a choice, you have to live with the consequence. You have to, nobody else should. Now, I'm bringing this up because I have been paying attention to the various laws, one in particular, that Kate Brown passed here in Oregon. Now, before I continue, I'll let you know that I have friends who are pro-choice. I used to be pro-choice until I actually thought about what it meant to be pro-choice. The way I see it, if you are pro-choice, you're kind of turning a blind eye to common sense. I mean, maybe not necessarily toward personal responsibility, but toward common sense. And here's why. Sex, as it were, as it is, well, yeah, as it is makes more sense. It's basically procreation. Biologically speaking, sex's main function is baby making. That's the main function of sex. No matter what people tell you or ask you why it feels so good, no matter what they try and say to counteract that logic, the fact is, we have to, as people, jump through so many freaking hoops to prevent getting pregnant or impregnating somebody else just to have a little hanky spanky. Now, people will try and convince you that there is safe sex. No. When it comes to the actual act of sex, no matter what you do, it's not completely safe. It is safer to do some things as opposed to others, but it's not actually completely safe. Some turn a blind eye to that fact. Others will try and convince you, like they have tried to convince me, that the way that we're treating sex in and of itself is completely understandable. People want to call it a physical need. People want to call it a basic bodily function that should be explored. I'm telling you now that it doesn't need to be explored. It is not a human need. It is a desire. It is a want. And to treat a want that has such drastic consequences like a pastime goes against basic common sense. If you cannot afford to have a child or pay for an abortion on your own, then you shouldn't be having intercourse. And that is what we should be teaching kids. Because, lo and behold, when we go down this insane road that we've been going down for quite some time, we get somebody like Kate Brown, who comes up in here and says, I'm going to go skirt the law. First of all, you're not supposed to be passing taxes whose funds go toward abortion whatsoever. She's going to skirt the law. She's not going to go and try and put it to a vote with the people, which she should have done because this is a very serious subject. She's going to go over our heads. She's going to go behind our backs. She's going to do everything in her power to make sure it passes without the people say so. Rather than telling this next generation, or even our generation, that they should be using their brains rather than their bodies when it comes to these serious decisions, we are going to try and impose a tax on the working class, which, by the way, we have plenty of taxes, mind you, plenty of money already going into this government of ours. We're going to impose a tax on the working class without their say-so that goes directly into funding abortion. Now, I understand that the bill itself will also go toward sexual education. That wouldn't have been so much of a problem. Contraceptives, actual contraceptives, that wouldn't have been so much of a problem. But the fact of the matter is, when it comes to people like myself, abortion isn't a form of contraceptives. It occurs after the fact. It occurs after the fact. I'm sorry, but the development of that child has already started when you get to the point of abortion. That is not prevention. The moment of prevention is over. The only honest, safe, true, and effective way not to have a kid is to not do the dirty. Don't walk the midget. Don't do the horizontal mambo. Your life does not depend on sex. Regardless of what some of these butt-backwards freaking scientists will try and teach you. Because there was an entire... how many generations before we came about that did not rely on a life of intercourse? That did not, for the most part, treat sex like a pastime. Especially at a super young age. But no, we gotta dive into this whole, it's my body, I'll do what I want to. Well, it's your body, you can do what you want to, but guess what? It is your problem, your concern when sex turns into pregnancy. It wasn't enough that Oregon made it legal and ran with it being legal to have an abortion. No, that wasn't enough for everybody. No, now you gotta tax the working folk. Now you gotta tax the health insurance. Now you gotta put even more of a burden upon an already burdened society simply because we don't want to teach personal responsibility anymore. Yeah, way to go. Now we're gonna have an even more messed up generation coming up on this ridiculous idea that Kate Brown has started passing around. Politicians like Kate Brown are slowly corrupting the moral fiber of our society. And you can tell, I've got pro-choice people that I talk to telling me that she took it too far. Telling me that putting the burden upon people who had no say in the pregnancy in the first place, had no part of the action of somebody getting pregnant, did not do the horizontal mambo. She's imposing these laws on these people that have no business paying for abortions, and these pro-choice people, are saying this new law is taking it too far. Because it is. If you want to live with the burden of an abortion, if you made the choice, if you decided to partake in physical carnality, that's on you. The responsibility and the consequence is on you, not on everybody else. And the fact that Kate Brown thinks that it should be on everybody else is a slap in the face to everybody who does not support abortion for one reason or the other. We the people, whether you are for or against it, had no say in it. We have no say in a lot of laws that are passed these days. Laws that are passed over our heads that have no business being there in the first place. Laws that affect the Second, the First, the 14th Amendment. People don't realize that the more we let these politicians get away with going around us, going around our opinions, not consulting us with whether we actually want something to happen, the more we allow this, the less freedoms we're going to have down the road. Whether you are for or against any given law that any politician comes up with, guess what? You should be pissed off if they did not go through you and the other people first. You should be. Look at the world we're living in these days. Look at it. Look around you. We are capable of connecting with people across the globe. We are capable of picking fights, bickering, and arguing, and being nasty to each other. Nasty to people we have never even met. We can share thoughts and ideas in an instant. As a community, even. We have the technology and the means to actually better our society by sharing our thoughts, opinions, sharing our intelligence as a whole. We have that ability. And yet we still let politicians pass laws that directly affect us, yet we had no say in. Let that sink in. We have the technology to run this without them, generally speaking. And yet we are just allowing them to go right over the top of our heads. Over every single law that they just want to write into place. I don't care if it has to go through Congress. I don't care if it has to go through the Senate. I don't care. You want to know why I don't care? Because the people don't have a say. What you don't realize is that politicians, they're corrupt. Nobody wants to understand that power corrupts. Money corrupts. Influences in general, not having necessarily to do with money or power, they can corrupt. The time is coming where we need to take a stand and we need to demand that we have a say. Of course, that's not going to happen if we have an entire group of people out there who's going to badger another group of people who simply want to share their opinion, who simply want to invoke their First Amendment right to free speech. Antifa is going to hold us all back. Certain cliques of the Black Lives Matter group are going to hold us back. People who are willing to destroy their own college campuses. People who are willing to assault people simply because they have a bumper sticker that they do not agree with. Those people are going to hold us back from actually having a say when it comes to our government, because these are the very same people that seem to think that having a big government is going to fix everything. What you all don't realize is that the government itself has been growing, it's been passing more and more laws, and nothing is changing. We still have violence out on the streets. We still have a growing drug problem with harder drugs, mind you. Yeah, that's still happening, especially out where I live. And yet people just want to keep on trying to trust that bigger government, and these same people, mind you, are saying that police officers are bad, even though police officers are still a part of that government, whether it's state government or federal government. The reason why there are so many laws that they have to enforce is because the government is passing said laws. If you don't want so many stupid laws, if you don't want so many problems from the police officers, then don't put people into office that are going to pass laws that these police officers have to enforce because that is what they were told to do. If you don't want to be breaking the law, don't put people in office that are going to be passing even more laws, restricting your lives. Once you do that, you really can't say that you are against the Blue Lives Matter group. Because you are literally feeding the growing law problem that we have by bringing in these politicians that you know are going to be passing even more laws. I support the police. I do. But I have got to point out the freaking hypocrisy that we are dealing with these days when it comes to Antifa, when it comes to people that want to be shooting at cops. And then they want to go turn around and they want to say, oh yeah, I want a bigger government. I want the government to go and to give me financial aid. I want this from the government. I want that from the government. Well, the government is one thing as a whole. Even if it has separate branches that go off, the same tax money goes into it. Same tax money that fuels the police force also fuels state government, if not federal government. So it's either you want less laws, less issues with the police officers. You want to, actually sort this out so that people who are going to jail actually belong there, and people who are coming out of jail, shouldn't have just stayed in there. You've got to stop supporting the big government. One way or another. So long as they are there to pass laws over the heads of the people, you've got to stop supporting them. We the people have the ability to communicate, to share our opinions and our ideas. We have, 1 billion people now in the United States, if not more? I think it's 1 billion. And yet, out of 1 billion, we only choose 100? Maybe 100 to 1,000, possibly, to run this show? That's not enough people. Anyway, I gotta get going, but just think about it.